Greetings, educators. Warm greetings to everyone, educators, school management, parents, if you are a parent in the group, or any learner in the group. But most importantly, in these sessions, we usually have our educators. Welcome to our Teacher Connect Lounge event today. We are so glad that you managed to make some time to spend some time with us at this valuable time where we are sharing some of the nuggets that you can use in your classroom or in your leadership responsibility. Today, we are pleased to talk about a very important subject, which is purpose and classroom management. What is the purpose of the particular lesson or whatever that you're doing in a classroom situation? And we have lined up a very special guest with lots of experience to bring this topic to you. My name is Mwekezi Chopa. I am responsible for communication and advocacy at the DBE Ecubed. And I will also ask my colleagues in the background to launch a poll for you. You've seen that there was a poll that you have completed as you were registering. There will be one that you will complete now, and then the one at the end of the presentation. Before I go into our speaker for today, and I just want to make you aware and remind you to book some time for next month's event. Please diarize it, put it in your calendar, that we'll be holding a town hall in the Teacher Connect Lounge similar to this one. And every month we have a specific theme. As I've mentioned that the theme for today, it's purpose and classroom management. And next month, it will be on the 27th of July. Please diarize that, 27th of July. And it will be about how to enable a learner-centered learning. How to enable learner-centered learning. That's something that is very crucial right now in our classroom and also as we talk about CAPS. In terms of what we're going to cover today, which is the slide that you'll be seeing on your screens right now, I've already done the welcome and I've already told you about the forthcoming event. And today's topic, just to repeat it, is purpose and classroom management. And I'll also introduce you in detail to our speaker on this one today. And also, after I have had a Q&A with her, I will also take questions from you. There's a button, Q&A, at the bottom of your screen. If you click there, you'll be able to post comments and questions to the speaker in there. And at the end, before we leave, I will make some announcement and close sharply at 6 o'clock because I do respect your time very much. Going into introducing the speaker, we will be on camera soon. Our speaker for today is Mildred. So our speaker for today, her name is Mildred, and she was born Mildred Smith. But you know, when people say three names like Mildred Abegail Smith, it feels like it's someone's obituary, but she's affectionately known as Millie Smith. For those that work with her in the Free State, she is our special guest for today, and she's a Chief Education Specialist for Humanities and EMS in the Free State Department of Education. She was born in a small town in the Free State province and attended a multi-grade school from grade 1 to grade 7. She holds a master's degree in education from the University of the Free State. She has 15 years experience as a teacher, of which eight of these 15 years were as a departmental head. She has a further experience in education sector as a subject advisor, a deputy chief education specialist. Millie has developed various teaching and learning materials for the department. She was one of the writers for the life skills curriculum and policy statements in 2010, and she reworked the personal and social well-being and physical education study areas. With over 30 years experience in education sector, her personal mission statement is lead by example and inspire, encourage others to be the best versions of themselves. I can attest to this because I've visited Millie in her province, and she's also one of our provincial coordinators for Ecubed in the Free State. Millie, can you please switch on the camera? Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me now on camera. Millie, can you please switch on the camera and join me in this discussions? Millie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mwekiti, but you won't believe me. I'm now looking for
The camera, but it's at the bottom left hand. It's the second button. The first one is the mic. The second one is the camera.
I only have the mic. Then I have this button, this arrow kind of thing, which
Okay.
gives me the microphone selection, the speaker, and the audio settings.
Okay. I will ask Susie in the background to check whether she can give you rights to have that camera. But in the meantime, we will proceed, and I will allow the audience to enjoy my ugly face in the meantime. So let me allow you to talk in the meantime and introduce
Okay.
the topic. You can start off by telling us or what does purpose and classroom management mean to you?
Sorry, Millie, your video should work now.
Yes. Let me just see. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay.
Do you hear? You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Give me a second.
So it is here, but I cannot use it. Is that okay?
Okay. Whilst we are still sorting
There's
out,
I've got it now.
oh, there
It's
you
now.
are. Okay. Oh wow, you see now.
I wonder.
Okay.
It seems as if the light is not good here where I'm sitting.
No, it's fine. The light is fine.
Is it fine?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Let me hand over to you, and then I'll be off screen for your presentation. Then I'll come with questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mweketi. Good evening, everyone. As you have heard, I'm already introduced. I am Millie Smith, known as Millie Smith in the province and everyone else that knows me. As it was indicated, I was born in a small town in the Free State, which is Vicksburg, for those who knows it, on the riverbanks of the Caledon River, on the banks of the Caledon River, where I attended a multigrade school. So we were very few in our class. So, but I can tell you, those were the best years of my life, and I really had good experiences there. Getting to today's topic, I would just because I know we don't have much time, and so I'm not going to be very long, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. So today we're talking about purpose, but we're also talking about classroom management. So I'm going to share you my experiences as a teacher. So I was a teacher long ago, but I must say it was a very enjoyable time of my life, and I still miss the children. I'll go back anytime to classroom teaching just to interact and engage with the learners. So I'm going to share with you how I used to manage my classroom. And I can really promise you that I did not have much problems when it comes to discipline. Can I just make it? It seems as if my dog is now. It's now better.
Yeah, it's fine.
So my dog decided to bark tonight, of all nights. So I can promise you I did not have much discipline challenges with my classroom. A very important thing that we need to remember as a teacher is that whenever we engage with learners or interact with learners, it's very important for us to make them feel special. And there's a number of ways to make them feel special. But in making them feel special, we also have to make sure that our classroom, or we have a special classroom. Now, I'm sure for those who have been on the town hall regularly, who have been doing Ecubed and so on, the term special classroom is not a very new classroom. When we talk about a special classroom, we're talking about a classroom where we enable social interaction. In other words, in most of the activities that we're doing with the learners in the class, we allow learners to either work in peers or work in groups. We also create a sense of purpose. It's very important that whenever we do whatever lesson we're doing with the learners in the class, it's important that the learners understand what is the purpose of the lesson. And more importantly for me is also for the learners to understand how whatever we're doing in the class, how it links with the outside world, with the real life world. Nowadays, we hear a lot of people, our age group would say, we have been drawing the locust, and today we don't see the purpose of drawing the locust. But if our teachers then could explain to us how this locust that we are doing in the class links with the real life and how is it going to impact our future, it would have made better sense for us. So it's so important that we also have that we have purpose with our lessons, not as teachers only having our learning objectives, knowing what is it that we want learners to achieve at the end, but also for the learners to understand what is the purpose of us doing that lesson. Our lessons needs to be enjoyable as teachers. Whether we are going to bring in singing, whether we are going to bring in rhyming or whatever, but we must make it enjoyable for the learners. Learners must always look forward to come to our classes because of the activities that we are doing in our classes. And of course, inspire curiosity. Learners must be able to ask questions and at the same time find the solutions to the questions that they have been asking. As teachers, we must step a little bit to the background, not too much to the background, a little bit to the background, so that we become the facilitators and learners can then get the opportunity to learn in our classes. And then also to encourage iteration, so to say that learners must know that in our class or in your class, they can fail, but in failing, you will give them the opportunity and the support to try again until they get it right. So learners shouldn't be afraid to fail or not to doing things right in your class. They must know it's part of the learning process. But also, we must also foster positive engagements as well as learner-centered learning. I think throughout what I've said now, it's clear that in everything that we do, the learner should be in the center and the learner should do for themselves. We should be there to facilitate and guide and support the learners in what they are doing. Now, with that said, I would then also maybe just look into classroom management before I just share my experiences with you to say, why is it necessary that we manage our classes? As a teacher, for classroom management is a very important aspect of making sure that you achieve your goals, making sure that learning takes place in your classroom. So one of the reasons is that because we want to create that special classroom, we want to create an organized and functional environment for the learner to be able to learn. Also for us as teachers to be able to teach. Also in managing our class, we also want to reduce interruptions. In every class, there will always be that 1, 2, 4 children, how many children, that always likes to disrupt, that would always try to disrupt the class. But if we have good classroom management skills, then we would be able to deal with those learners that try to disrupt the classes. An important thing about learners that disrupt is that we must always try to understand, we must always try to have one-on-one talks with these learners so that we can understand why are they disruptive. Sometimes it's just because they want our attention. So if we have those one-on-one talks with them, it makes it, we get to know, get to the root of the disruptions. But also why we need to manage our class so that we can be time efficient and also be able to prioritize learning in our classrooms. And lastly, we need to manage our classrooms so that we can ensure that we promote an inclusive environment where we cater for the different abilities of the learners in our classrooms. So that those are some of the reasons why we then need to manage our classrooms. Now, getting to my experience as a teacher, a very important thing of teaching is planning. A teacher always needs to be well prepared. So you need to plan beforehand for your lessons, every little thing, the activities that the learners are going to do, how you're going to engage them, how are you going to involve them in the lesson plans, what are the research, what you need them to do. So for me, an important thing about being prepared was not only prepared for the lessons or not only prepared for what I'm going to do in the class, but it was also for me very important to be prepared to receive the learners in my class at the beginning of the year. Because every year you get this new learners, and then is the first time that you meet the learners. And if you are well prepared and you establish a good relationship from the start of from the beginning of the year, then you are set for the rest of the year. You know that you have already won them over, and your troubles or your challenges with them, behavior, discipline, is going to be minimized. One of the things, as I said, I won't go into details of all the things that I did, but one of the things that I would do is, for example, at the end of the year, when classes are ready, I would then prepare cover pages for their books. Photostat a nice picture on the book, which they can color, and then with my own handwriting, I would write each and every one of their names on that page. Because as I'm doing so, I'm already learning their names. I'm already starting to engage with their names, seeing their names, starting to pronounce their names. And as soon as they come in the class, when I start to hand out those papers to them, then I'm able to put a name to a face to those names. So this was one of the things that I do. And then knowing that in the first 1 or 2 days, they use the time to paste those cover pages on their workbooks. We cover with plastic the books, or and then they color those pictures. And in that, while they are doing that, it's nice activity, not taking too much of their energy. And I also get to know them while they are doing that. It's one of the things that I do. Important for me was always to know my learners. And I think that should be important for every teacher, to know each and every one of those learners. Because remember, I've said at the beginning, it's important for us to create a special classroom, but also in that classroom, make learners feel special, make them they belong, know they belong in the class. So for me, it was important to know each one of their names, because it's even at the age where we are, it's always so nice when people can call you by your name. So each of those learners, I would know them by their names. And even now, when I meet them in the street, I still know their names, and they would be so happy to see that ma'am still remember them. Then a very important thing also that I also did at the beginning of the year was to make sure that we set our class rules. So before we get too busy and before we get too used to one another, it was important for me to set the class rules. Now, class rules is not something that I would then write by myself, put on the board and read out to them. Class rules would be something that I work or develop together with the learners. It was a collaborative activity where myself and the learners would work on these class rules. And how we would do it is I would, for example, ask them that, having talked with them, what their goals are for the year, what they want to achieve at the end of the year, where do they see them in the next year, which high schools are they going, if they grade 7s and so on. Then I would then get to how are we going to get there. If you want to see yourself in the next grade, if you want to see yourself pass in this, how are we going to get there? What is it that you are expecting from me as the teacher in helping you to achieve those goals that you have set now? Then learners would come up with all sorts of things, but they want me to teach them. They want me to mark their books. They want me to respect them, not to yell at them, and all those things as they are mentioning them, or as we are brainstorming, then we would be writing them down. After having written down all these things, and we are sure there's all that are there more that they would want to add, then I would get to asking them, what is it that you are going to give to be able to get this from me? For me to teach you, from me not to yell at you, for me to respect you, from me to be in class every day, can I expect from you? What are you giving? then obviously, if they want me to respect them, then obviously they also have to respect me as a teacher. If they want me to teach them, they also have to pay attention in the class, participate in activities. They also have to do their homework. And so we would go. So we would have all these things that they have contributed, and that would be our classroom rules, and we would hold each other accountable based on what was said. So whenever homework is not done, then it's a matter of, let's look at our rules. This is what we have said. So how come your homework is not done? And now how do we deal with this matter? And I would always try to almost like negotiate with them. They must tell me, this is the situation now. How do we deal with the situation? You would, for example, have the disruptive learner, and then how do you deal with that disruptive learner? One thing that I've never done, that I tried not to do as a teacher, was to yell at children, to shout at them, because you are embarrassing that child in front of his peers, and that child is going to retaliate, with the result that you are going to lose that child for the rest of the year, for the rest of the term. So as we said, we need to respect each other. So for me to respect the child, not to yell at the child. So we also negotiate with their child. While I'm busy with the other children, not to disrupt the other children. I would ask the disruptive one to leave the class, wait for me outside. I would even go to the extent, depending on the learner, because you know your learners, I would go to the extent and say, go sit on my chair. And then they laughed. Go sit in my chair and wait for me on my chair. Or go sit on the desk next to my chair. Go sit on the desk next to my table. They laugh. But with that is because I want to take their child aside, so that I can have a one-on-one with their child, and so that we can discuss. And discussing with their child the problem, I would not go like, but you disrupt my class. And no, I would go like, can you tell me, what is it that I'm doing that makes you to behave like this in my class? What is it that the other learners are doing that makes you to behave? I can see you want to stop me. Is it that?
No, I need to allow the question and answers, so because we are left with 8 minutes now. But the subject that you were on about, I think that's one thing that educators would like to ask more questions on the disruptive learners, because that's one thing that people are struggling with. Just a reminder to everyone, if you have questions, I see a lot of people have been raising hands. Please just type your questions or comments in the Q&A section, and then I will be able to read it out to Millie. So Millie, why is it important to take these learners outside, to have this conversation outside with them?
You know, an important thing to remember when we're dealing with the children, sometimes I was dealing, for example, with grade 6s and 7s. They are 12, 13 years. They're just entering adolescence. So it's a matter of want to fit in. It's a matter of, the want to be part of the group and so on. So if you take the learner outside, number one, you are not embarrassing the child in front of his peers. You're giving him the respect that you have promised in your class rules. Number two, you do not disrupt the class, because sometimes when you are, I don't want to say fighting, but when you are strict with a learner in front of other learners, you might instill fear in the other learners, and that's what you don't want. You want to have that relationship with your learners, and they must always see you. So in taking that learner outside, it gives you also the time to have a one-on-one with the child, so that if there are problems that the child maybe need to share with you, that the child can then be open to share that. And it's not in an open space. You almost like you create that safe space where the child can be open to you and tell you what the challenge is.
Yeah, and linked to this issue of disruptive learners in class, we often hear teachers say that since the corporal punishment was banned, they have struggled with discipline. What would you say to these teachers?
I don't think that corporal punishment was the answer to learner behavior or the learner discipline. I have mentioned that we need to be well prepared. If you are well prepared and you know what needs to happen in the class, and everybody is engaged, there's very little time for learners to be disruptive. But if you do, you will have that one or two that will want, because they always want to push or to test the boundaries. So with that child, you must have in your rules have set also rules to say, how are we going to deal with disruption in the class? And what is it? Are we going to call in the parents? What is it? Are we going to let you stay outside until you have decided to correct your behavior, and then you can come back to my class again, depending on what the school rules are and so on. But there are such ways that teachers can deal with disruption in the class. But the most important thing, teachers always must try and have a one-on-one with this child and try to find out, is it just attention-seeking behavior, or is there a bigger problem than just the disruption that we see in the class?
Yeah. So linked to that, it's teachers who say that I hear you with the advices that you are giving me. How does this one work? Those advices that you suggested in an overcrowded classroom. You also mentioned working in small groups. How do I work with small groups in an overcrowded classroom?
Overcrowded classroom, I know it's one of it's a problem that we have in most of our schools. But as a teacher, it's very important that you know the learners in your class. And I know the teachers might tell me that, but if I'm sitting with 50 children, if I'm sitting with 60 children, it takes me almost the whole first quarter to know each and every one of them. But the teacher must then be able to identify those learners that they can use, so that if I work with small groups, that I can give one of these learners that I trust, that I can put them as the leaders of those group, that they would almost like, so that when I plan my lesson, have some kind of focus with these leaders that I have, my group leaders, so that they know what needs to happen in those smaller Nyana groups, so that when I focus on those groups, that I know the other groups are also engaged, because there is somebody that knows what needs to happen, that can guide the groups until I can get to them.
Okay, I have a question from Tamsanga Vulana. He says, what can one do if a child is disruptive because of learning barriers of reading and writing?
When I was still a teacher, it was part of our school policy that you teach up until the time when the school comes out, and then after that you have a 30 minutes or an hour with those learners where you help them to teach, where you help them with whatever they are struggling with. That's one thing one can do. But we also know that within the department there are referrals. But for us to be able to refer this learners, we need to have evidence of the support that we have given these learners. So it comes back to the teacher need to support the learners who cannot read and write, so that they can build up the S&A forms that forms part of S.P.E.C.I.A.L, so that they can complete those forms and have evidence to say, this is the support that I've given for so many months or for this time, and still I don't see improvement. So that such a learner can be referred.
Yeah. Last question from Edward. He's asking, if a learner continues to be disruptive, what should I do as a teacher after trying to discipline by letting the learner to stand at the door alone? The learner continues to be playful. So how do I deal with this behavior?
An important thing that I've not mentioned here is that when I set my class rules and talk to my learners, I would always indicate to my learners there's a difference between a rude child and a naughty child. So now, as teachers, we must now just first establish whether this is just a naughty child. Because a naughty child is one that we can live with. It's just every now and then having to just address this learner and just be a little bit strict with this learner, because it's that learner that's playful, that wants to make jokes and so on. But the rude child is that one that really disrupts your class and to some extent also want to challenge you as a teacher. But if in that case where you do not have progress with these learners, what are the school rules saying? What is the code of conduct for the schools, for the school, and doesn't the school have some kind of discipline action? Because the school must have rules or in place to say that if a learner keeps on transgress or going against this, going against these rules, this is what we do. We call in the parents, we do this, we do it, and we do that. We expel the learner for a week, depending on what it is. Or some schools would have a point system, deducting certain points for every misbehavior that the learners do. So yes, you can try to put them outside, talk to them, hear what their problem are, and if it's not working, then what is the school saying? Because then you have to go to your HOD, you have to go to the deputy. Your first line would be the HOD to come and intervene, then get in the deputy, the school principal, follow what the school rules are saying.
Thank you very much, Millie. We've run out of time, but I think these nuggets were very useful to teachers. So just a reminder, if you haven't done so, there's a training that you need to complete on project-based learning. Just go to www.lecube-dbe.org, and then you can complete that particular training. Just a reminder that on the 27th of July, we will be having a session at 5:30 again on learning that matters to the learners. With that said, thank you very much to everyone, and thank you to my guest for sharing all these valuable lessons. Till next time, thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Moeketsi, and thank you everyone for listening to me. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye.